Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Critical Critique. Pause on point. See, I'm still doing it. Because it's like ingrained into my fucking psyche.
How long have we done pause on point?
We haven't done pause on point for a long time, but I guess this is pause on point, but we don't call it that anymore. It's a shame. I don't know. But anyhow, yeah, always something has to go wrong. Funnily enough, Ellie, I will mention to you, as soon as you did the transition, the music kicked in. So I don't know if that's useful information to you or not, but I heard the music when the transition happened. So it was weird.
Let me just quickly fade in.
Yep.
All right. Oh, you stream couldn't hear our speaking right now, but anyway.
Yeah. We it wouldn't be a critical critique stream without scuffed start. That's
it's
we're
only
never
because
gonna get over that.
I'm trying fancy new things like a.
Yeah, Ellie's always trying to fuck around, and he finds out.
And it's good. It's better for it.
So yeah, so today we're going back to our roots. We're going back to some classic, not a classic individual, but we're going back to a classic theme, the theme of isekais.
Our very first stream was about slime isekai.
A very first video, yes. So before that, I will just say that hopefully I will be a little bit less tilted today. I'll be a little bit less angry. It was fun though. I will say that. It was quite good. But yeah, so yeah, I guess we might as well switch over to the video.
Yeah.
I have a feeling this will be a shorter stream, because I think we'll be able to crank through this fella's video quite quickly, because it's pretty. Because I've already watched it. This is the inverse of last stream. Because last stream, Ellie watched a video and he was like, "Damn, Lorenzo's going to get so mad about this video." And this time I watched a video and I'm like, "Man, Ellie's going to get so mad about this video." So
yeah, but my mad is more of an indignation than
Samu, don't be a pre-jack. You'll get your conditioning. Don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. So anyhow, let's switch. Switch on. I'll let you hit the button. Hit the button. Hit button. Fancy transition. Woo. So this fella here is an interesting fella. I think it's pronounced Yui. I can't remember. It's you.
I don't see the name anyway.
Well, I know who he is, right? So this guy used to do Arknight's content, right? I didn't follow him specifically, so I wasn't subscribed, but he used to show up in my recommends a lot, and his Arknight's content was pretty good. It's pretty good, informing you, hey, here's a unit, here's what they do, here's some,
optimal strategies,
examples,
optimal builds,
optimal builds, optimal strategies, and he has a very funny comedic style, right? He's a little bit irony poisoned, but he's got a very tongue-in-cheek sort of style. And he used to do these little skits with the chibis, like the little sprites. He'd used to like manipulate them in Photoshop to do little like skits, and I thought his content was really good. I was always really, I thought, yeah, no, this is pretty good. I'm not going to subscribe, but it's good stuff. But then he decided, I believe sometime close to the end of last year or the beginning of January, I can't remember exactly when it was, he kind of made the statement he's retiring from Arknights and he wants to kind of do other stuff, right? Which is, fair enough. Kind of a dangerous proposition for a YouTuber, because if you decide to just completely change what your channel's about, it usually doesn't end well, for algorithm purposes.
Yeah,
it's right?
just a rough transition, right? Because you lose, fans, the algorithm, the big algorithm hates you because suddenly people are not interested. That means your channel is now dead and YouTube doesn't care.
Yeah. So I believe he put out a video about Streamer Overload, the needy stream, that game about streamer. I haven't watched that one because because funnily enough, what you were just talking about happened. I wasn't interested, right? So, but then I saw he's starting to get a bit more into like AniTuber style content, right? So he's doing a bit of like covering the animes, and then I notice in my recommendations one day, oh, it's a video about isekai from this fella that I remember. And I was like, oh, that sounds like it'll be fun. And then I watched it and I immediately put it in the queue. So yeah, so that's kind of the backstory, I guess. I figured I'd put that in for a little bit of context before I grab my drink and do the conditioning.
Ooh. Also,
Ellie loves the conditioning. He's like, ooh.
I kind of hate it though. Anyway, 5-0, don't worry. Just watching is good enough. Samu, gacha games are a little bit more in depth than just gambling. Samu.
Maybe we'll have to find a gacha game video that we can have a debate about it. I don't know. We'll have to find some way that we can work in a debate about efficacy of gacha games. But I mean, I don't think we disagree that much.
No.
But it would be fun to cover a video if we could find one that's short where we could talk about it.
Yeah, I have some
gaming video.
I had some thoughts, and I suppose it would be actually better reserved for an actual AnyTube thing video.
Maybe.
Where I, say something and get 500 views and loads of downvotes.
you say something controversial and get.
Nah, the thing is, right, if we're going to do a little pre-video thing on gacha, right, my idea was that gacha games are interesting in that they are actually kind of limited in the kind of stories you can tell. Mainly regarding characters. Because any of your characters cannot die, cannot be absent, cannot be removed.
Well, you say that.
How many gacha rolled characters die and can't be used anymore?
I'm trying to think, because I think I'm using Arknights as an example. I don't know if there's been characters that have straight up died, but I do. I think that I don't think it's impossible. I think it is very possible to have characters that because in Arknights there are a lot of cases where you're like controlling characters that aren't necessary. Like it's more like, oh, at this point in time they were at Rhodes Island, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. Oh, actually. Yeah, there is. At least it's implied within lore that Beagle dies. Yeah. Beagle is, who funnily enough, is like a 3-star beginner starter character. It's heavily implied that something happens because the timeline in Arknights is all over the place. Like events take place in the future and the past all the time. Like they do events in different parts in the timeline, right? In different parts of the world, right? And in some of the more future-y ones, there's a lot of hinting that something happens to Beagle. So I guess you could count that as, yeah, they killed off someone. Also, yeah, good point. Samu brings up Honkai. In Honkai, the redhead chick, I can't remember her name. But she gets killed really early on.
I'm kind of surprised because...
Yeah. So you're completely wrong, Ellie.
I am surprised though, I have no familiarity with...
See, this is the problem. This is the problem. You have, and this would probably be what the debate would kind of be more about, is that you have no experience with the subject, so you're kind of just shooting from the hip.
Well, whereas
Himiko, that was her name. Yeah, Himiko. Himiko, and that's actually a big deal in the story too. Like that's a massive thing because I haven't played Honkai, but I was watching Banana stream it.
I am kind of but you can still use Himiko in later chapters, right? Or
well, there's a separate. It's like I was saying with Arknights. There's a separation between using characters in stages versus like character existence in gameplay is not the same as character existence in story, right? Because in Arknights you have characters that are like alters, that are like either in the future. So you'll have like the past version and the current version of the character, if that makes sense. Or you'll have like in Skadi the Corrupting Hearts case, it's a character that's like, this is the bad end scenario or something, and so it's like this is the Eldritch monstrosity version, right? So I think that there's a separation a lot of the time between gameplay versus narrative, like utility, because otherwise it would be like you'd have to play every single, like there'd be no point in even picking your own characters to use in a stage in general, because it would just be, oh, you can only use the characters in the story that are in the story, right?
Yeah, that's
like
kind of, but that's
like narratively, right?
I do have to admit that I kind of expected that there would be some separate. Rephrasing, I would thought either nobody dies ever, or story and characters are completely separated, segregated almost, right? So characters who died or whatever, removed, gone to the moon, they still exist in your party. And that's kind of what I meant with they can't die. They can't be removed from your access to the characters is never removed.
I think it would be interesting to find some way to do that, but I also can understand why. Like, I don't actually even think that's a unique thing to gacha, to be fair. Like, I feel like there's always there's a little bit of like gameplay story separation. I guess you'd have more freedom to be able to do it in things that aren't gacha games, but at the same time, I'm not sure. From Samu's experience in games like Archery Gear, a lot of the freestyle units get killed off in a cutscene. So yeah, apparently it's more common than even I think.
But Final Fantasy had what's her name again? Eris.
She gets you. So you're kind of using that as like the comparison.
Yes.
Point, I guess, right?
Aerith.
So I get what you're saying though, right? I get what you're saying. I just feel like, I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing to talk about.
Just to finish this future clip, right?
This might be. Wait, weren't we meant to be talking about isekai, Ellie?
This future clip, right? Is that what I find more interesting is that the systems of gacha prevent players from getting their access to a character removed. That the systems of the game.
We'll have to find a gacha video. We can talk about this at length. And this is like the short form version of the debate. We'll have to do it again another time, but we'll put a pin in this. Cut back to it. Anyway, let's
gacha tensions.
Let's watch the funny man isekai, right? Let's see what he has to say.
If there's anyone who's the biggest hater of isekai anime, it's me. It's not just because I'm sick of the oversaturated slop that comes out every season with the cute marketable anime girls so that the franchise...
Just for funsies, can you go back and through that list, because I want to test him.
See, guys, last stream I got triggered 6 seconds in. Ellie's beat me at 10 seconds. He's better than me. He lasted longer.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, I'm the biggest hater of isekai.
Alright, let's go through the list, shall we? I'll see if I can pause.
It's me. It's not just because I'm sick of the...
Alright, okay, so we got... Alright, I'll let you watch
anime. It's me. It's not just because I'm sick of the oversaturated slop that comes out every season with the cute marketable anime.
Alright, it seems that they are all actually isekai. That's what I wanted to know. The list, the images that he showed.
He's at least being factually accurate.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the...
Alright, well, let's continue.
Also that the franchise has something to attract fans. It's that fantasy is my favorite genre of any book, or show, or media, because it, in my opinion, is the most escapist out of any genre. And goddamn do I hate the real world. Since Sword Art Online was the biggest hit of the 2010s, every anime has ripped too many pages out of that light novel, and now we have tons...
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Chapter 15 of Sword Art Online. Yeah.
Also, hey Josh, how you doing? But so Sword Art Online is to blame for everything yet again. It's always
I don't.
Sword
The thing is, right? That's not entirely inaccurate, right?
It's not entirely inaccurate, but I mean we've discussed at length. I mean we had the massive stream with, well, not stream, but the massive video two-parter with Joe that one time where we talked about the history of isekai and where it comes from and all this other stuff. Like I think that I just have an issue with the wording, I guess, because he
yeah, I
says,
do
"Oh,"
too, because he doesn't
because he
separate.
said, well, it's weird because he does, because he's like, "Oh, the animes are all taking pages out of that light novel," so it's not like he's doing the anime only tunnel vision thing that we're always talking about. He does recognize the light novels exist, but he's still saying, "Oh, the animes take inspiration from the page out of the light novel," right? And maybe it's a semantic criticism, I guess, but it's kind
I'm
of
far
annoying.
more tolerant of that, because it's then, if it's anime you consume, then it's the anime that you see that are taking the page out of. I would say series is a far better neutral term for that, encompasses everything from the anime to the original web novel, in a sense, right? So series is what you kind of want to use when you either don't know how much stuff there is, or if it's only an anime, Metallic Rogue, Kill la Kill, basically, and whatnot. Only have an anime, use anime. Or if they've got light novels and whatnot, the mangas is it an adaptation from a manga or light novel? Use series, but can use series regardless if it's an anime original or not. So it's the safer thing to use.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's continue.
Tons of inspiring shows to choose from every season. My gripes with isekai boil down to two main points: the characters and the tropes. Let's start with the first, the characters. Everyone is aware of how self-insert these shows can be, but paradoxically, to me, I could not for the life of me insert myself into these main characters.
Because maybe they are not all self-inserts.
Yeah, maybe I feel like the self-insert thing gets tossed around a lot. When I mean, sometimes it's valid. Like I can see it sometimes, but I do think that, like, I wouldn't say Eins, for instance, is like a self-insert.
No.
I wouldn't say, what would be another good example? Like Sword Bro, maybe. Because he's kind of his own character. He's a little bit. I feel like there is degrees, I guess, because on the one hand, you could argue like any main character is maybe not a self-insert, but you are meant to be able to relate, I guess, to a character, right?
I mean,
you should be like, even if you're not like literally him, right? You're not literally him, as the meme would say, right? Even though you can still relate to, I get the struggles and the story and the idea. You're not Luke Skywalker, right? Like, to use Star Wars as an example, right? You're not literally Luke Skywalker, but you can empathize with his coming of age, wanting to go on adventure, hero's journey. He goes and then he does training and he does so and so and so and so, right? People can relate to that story even if they're not literally him, and even if he is technically his own character, right?
Yeah,
So
but self-insert is most of the time kind of used in the sense of, oh, he's doing cool stuff, and he's even if he has it bad, it's more of a thing. Well, if I were in that situation, I would handle it much better, and then I would be so much cooler, and etc. etc.
Can't be Luke Skywalker. I don't have.
Yeah, I saw you, Jim. I unfortunately don't know every anime in that list. It looked alright, but if there's one I missed,
well, oof, big oof. Yeah, your positive praise retracted. But back to self-inserts though. I think there is a level of people kind of confuse. Oh, cool guy do cool thing. That's self-insert, right? I think self-insert really needs to be better defined, I feel. by people, because I think that there is definitely cases where a character is literally a blank slate that is literally meant to be the insert for whoever, like the viewer, right, the observer, right?
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't necessarily think. Let's just keep it to isekai because we're specifically talking about isekai here. I don't necessarily think it's as common as people kind of make it out. Maybe in the lesser, like the shows that everyone kind of brings up, but I don't think any of them actually watch or care. Like they just see that it's an isekai and they don't watch it, right? Like, Smartphone, Death March, like you see that even in his list, right? You kind of see a bunch of isekais that I would say fit in that bill, where people just see that they're isekais and they make assumptions about them without actually watching them, right? Like, maybe within those there's more blank slate type characters, but I mean in the isekais that I've watched, right, the ones that I felt were I was interested in, right, stuff like Spider, right, main character in Spider's her own character, right, she's got her own stuff, she's not a blank slate, so
well, I do think that in
think?
something like in I'm forgetting already. Mob characters have it hard in a Atoma game or trapped in a game, etc. And a main character is forced to play a Atoma game for his sister because she wants all the special loot and endings, but doesn't want to put in the effort. He forces his brother to play it. Brother beats everything, 100% everything, then dies, and then goes into the video game. So he knows everything in the game and uses it to his advantage in the Otome game world, where men are kind of discriminated as women are. That is somewhat of a self-insert in that if I were in my video game and I know everything about Mass Effect, so if I were to go into Mass Effect world, I would know which relays the Reapers come from, and then I would stop the Reapers and I'll be the hero. That feels kind of self-inserty, and that's also quite often. Well, not quite often, that I don't have enough experience. There are two other Otome game stories with this time, of course, female characters. I favor the villainess, and the flag. All flags lead to doom. Both are female characters that know the game they are playing and manipulate and use it to their own benefit. That has that self-insert kind of feel to it, because it's kind of a low effort, maximum results kind of experience they have.
I think there's a difference, because I don't actually think that's what this guy's talking about. I think what this guy's talking about is, like, because you're talking more about the narrative side of it, right? Like this is the narrative.
It's more for
the narrative. The narrative of the narrative of the character being transported into the game where they can do things because of prior knowledge, right? Whereas I think this guy's talking about specifically generic Kirito anime man who is, like, he's talking about the character, right? Specifically, I don't feel like he's talking about narrative here.
Well, the thing is, right?
So I would just caution that you should make that distinction between, because obviously in the villainess, in the Otome game works that you're talking about, those characters are still characters, right? They have their personalities, they have their quirks, they have their, things, right? So I have a feeling that he's talking more about, they're just generic anime men/women with no personality that you're meant to kind of impose your own personality into.
Oh, he's only talking about men, though, but...
Well, yeah, but I'm expanding it for the sake of argument, right?
I would say that I ended on what I think is the problem with self-insert, in that they see it, as they see it at least, they gain maximum result for minimum efforts. And that is the fantasy, right? You flick your wrists and the problem is solved and everybody loves you for it. And if you see Kirito being normal and everybody loves him for, beating a
just
game.
Existing,
That's what I feel is the fantasy, right? Smartphone isekai has always been brought up. He has a smartphone, so he clicks a few buttons on his smartphone and the problem is solved. Everybody has a smartphone. Everybody presses a few taps on the screen a bunch. And if tapping on your screen a little bit makes you the superhero of a fantasy world, and of course that is the self-insert fantasy because you and I can tap on a smartphone screen.
Yeah.
That's what I think is the problem with self-insert. Problem then, of course, with saying that somebody is self-insert is that it sometimes or even often ignores the struggles, the tribulation, the traumas,
the personalities, the quirks, like I said, because again, there's narrative versus character distinction. Because it depends on what that person's talking about. But anyhow, let's continue. See what he's talking about.
Because I'm old and balding. The protagonists are so bland, I'd get more enjoyment talking to a cardboard cutout than watching the show. It's like they all came from the r/nice guy Reddit with how their entire personality is being kind.
Yeah, see again, he's talking about personality, right? He's talking about the characters themselves, not what they're doing.
Yeah,
right?
I do think that that is a factor, but then
I don't like. I'm not saying that you're wrong, right? I think you're correct in that people are misconstruing these things, right? But talking about specifically what he's talking about, which is, and he's making it very clear that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's specifically talking about characters being bland, and they are bland because they're self-inserts, right? Which is the common argument, right? I think that, sure, you could make the argument that there are definitely, bland, generic, black-haired anime men out there, but I as I mentioned before when we kind of started this little tangent debate / thing, right? I think that it's not as common as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
I think that,
if I may, there is a kind of a trap in calling these characters bland because these acts of kindness often are made at great expenses of these main characters.
No good act goes unpunished.
But those acts of sacrifice aren't really recognized as grand sacrifices. Kirito often almost dies to being nice.
He's got literal PTSD. In the
first season, right? He kind of kills himself saving others. And that is not really recognized as a character trait of him. It's just categorized as him being nice, and everybody can be nice. But no, not everybody can be nice to the point of they killing themselves.
Oh, hang on, Sammy made a good point. Is it really sacrifice if it's easy for them to do it?
The thing is, right, that it often, it is not very easy to do it. It is often at an expense of themselves, but you don't see their entire lives. It is a story. So when they say, no, I don't need that reward, they're mostly fine with not getting that reward, but it's still something that you wouldn't do. You would give like a third away of it, right? You wouldn't just refuse the entire reward, but that is not. It's not really often called out in a series, and therefore it's not as easily recognizable as a sacrifice as it is. Refusing, you kill the monster and you get a reward for killing the monster, and you refuse the entire reward. That's a lot. That's a lot of your effort.
Although you could make to make a separate argument, though. You could make the argument that doing that is kind of a flex, right? It's saying I did this thing. I don't even need to be rewarded for it. You can keep your reward, right? There's a separate possible angle to that.
Yeah, but it's in these characters, they are, it is because they are nice. They are self-sacrificing a lot. And what I think is a problem in, self-insert bland characters in how they are seen is that those acts of kindness aren't seen as a kind of the sacrifices that they are to you, that they are if you or I did those things. That's what I kind of, that's a little, it's not deeper per se, but it is a thing that you might not, recognize easily because the show doesn't explain it in that way. The main character walks away and is mostly fine. So it isn't, highlighted as a grand act of kindness most of the time.
Right. So, is Kirito bland? Not a huge fan of Sao, but I wouldn't call him bland. I feel he goes through a character arc. I have to agree with Moshum. I didn't watch the first season. I did watch the second season just because guns.
Because it's first, right? Or maybe it's the
or is it the third? It's whatever the one is the gun one, right? Whatever. I watched that one. So, and I would argue, yeah, he does have a character arc. I mean, he has literal PTSD, and they talk it like part of that whole arc is him dealing with his PTSD, right? That's like a big part of the whole thing, right? So I wouldn't say that he doesn't have a character. And I think that a lot of that came from just people memeing, right? Like there was a lot. Back in the day, like, shitting on SAO was just, like, the hot thing. Like, shitting on SAO was shitting on, like, before isekai, like, took off, because obviously SAO kind of started it. Shitting on SAO was the meme of shitting on isekai is now, right? It's literally just everyone shits on SAO, despite the fact that there may or may not be actual merits to SAO, right? So... yeah, I feel like a lot of that just kind of comes... it's like leftovers from that era, right? Where people just weren't actually considering the merits of the work and were just shitting on it because everyone else was shitting on it without actually thinking about it.
Well, I would say that there is, of course...
I'll let you go, then we'll cover what Samu said just to cap it off, and then we'll continue.
Yeah. There is, of course, before SAO there was the battle harems, and before SEO there was the romantic comedy, and before that and slice of life somewhere in between those.
So on and so forth. Yeah, there's all the TLDR is there's always something people are shitting on, right? There's always the fucking pinata, I guess.
I do feel there is a kind of an in-between phase at the moment. Isekai is still here, but the dungeon types are in the upswing.
I think people are gonna start, going after stuff like solo leveling, and I guarantee you, people are gonna be like, "Oh, solo leveling is overhyped. Oh, it's so bad." I think that's gonna happen at some point. But to talk about Samu's point, because it directly relates to what you were talking about. Like, I think you forget that. Okay. Let me start from the beginning. I think you forget, though, that as the audience member, if we don't see why they have become so capable, it's not as weightful. I guess he's talking about kind of like the power.
Yeah, if we don't see the struggles of how he became powerful, then how we supposed to relate to his struggles?
Yeah. Do you have a response to that, or?
I don't think that you have to show every bit of struggle to kind of know that he struggled. For example, Sword Art Online, right? Sword Art Online, at the end of the first episode, he kind of runs away because he's being kind of just second first episode. It's revealed that he was a beta tester and therefore cheating, and he has an advantage and would semi-dangerous and semi-whatever to the rest of the player base. So he goes solo, and then other people, have trouble leveling and whatnot, and then he comes back as a moderately high level, higher than the average. That could say, well, he was a beta tester, so he knows all the good spots. But still, that is there is implied that he did a lot of stuff on his own, especially when the more floors are cleared and he doesn't have his his beta tester knowledge didn't extend that far. So there is I think because he just is alone, there is a kind of narrative you should be able to understand that he has to work harder to get where he is. It is hard, I would say, of course, that it's not a fantastic story is able to convey how hard he trained, how hard he fought, how hard he grinded. A Sword Art Online is written by somebody who was 15 at the time, so
yeah. You got to keep that in mind. Yeah, with Sword Art Online, I've heard that because he's redone SAO as I think it's what's it called, progressive,
I think, yeah,
progressive. I've heard that progressive is better written. It's a lot better. I haven't read it myself, but or I've heard, but that's just what I've heard. I've heard that it is a lot better. To cap it off, I'll just end with Moashoom's point of, it seems like every male lead that isn't aggressive battle shonen big man gets called bland. Yeah, I see a little bit of that. I do agree. There's I think, yeah, there's a little bit of that going on, but I think I'll put a cap in that for now because we can continue the video and see what our boy Chow Man here has to say.
They're reserved, but a little confident and know when to stand up for themselves, and they all fight for what is right. Every fantasy world society never advanced to the level of basic kindness, so being nice is this completely novel but revolutionary idea that only the main character has. The thing is, I have no problem with shows being self-inserts, because that type of writing isn't inherently bad. If the author has a genuinely interesting personality, hell yeah, you go insert yourself into.
Okay, so that's interesting. Now he's not talking about
audience
self-insert. Now he's talking about self-insert of the author. That's an interesting idea. So what do we think about that?
I think that he's being kind of a bit presumptuous.
A little. Because here's the thing. I think that, okay, so let's say, because there's plenty of isekai that are obviously the author wanting to explore some niche hobby or interest.
Yeah, I kind of, the example that I would give right now, and that I'm going to, is Seventh Son, that is deep into medieval inheritance in kingdoms and whatnot. And that stuff is so niche that only some,
some history nerd motherfucker,
late medieval thesis professor would write this story. And it's interesting because of that, with all the weird ass politics between kings and priests.
So I guess you could make the argument that stuff like that is like self-insert, right?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Well, let me kind of lay out my thought process here, right? Like, because I'm trying to do this from his perspective, right? So this isn't like my perspective. I'm trying to break down how, I'm psychoanalyzing the Chow Man with the fancy hat on the screen, right? I have a suspicion that the way that he's going is, okay, so they have this niche interest and they want to talk about the niche interest. So they're creating a world and a story / narrative around that interest, and then they have to insert characters into that setting. So they're inserting themselves as a character into that setting because they have an interest in that, topic, or they have an expertise in that topic. So who better to insert as a character or a main character into that topic, right? that's what he's assuming authors are doing, right? That's what he believes. That's why he's calling it self-insert, right? Because of that faction. At least that's what I think, right?
There is, of course, a problem.
I don't necessarily agree. Because while I can say, yeah, authors are obviously making stories based on their interests and wanting to, convey how fucking cool reading books is or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to use like Bookworm or, I think there was, what's the one? Because Joe talks about, I think there's like the pharmacy one. There's the food one, right? Which, with growing potatoes and stuff, right? Like, there's tons of examples of that. But I don't necessarily think I would consider that self-insert, right? Because when I think about self-inserting, I'm 9 times out of 10 either thinking about, okay, the author is literally inserting themselves into a into a story because it's fan fiction or whatever, and they just want to get with their favorite characters, right? That kind of self-insert, or it's blank slate audience self-insert. That's what I hear when I hear self-insert, right?
Yeah, and I see you, Kiniko. The son of a vending machine repair guy writes a story about vending machine and the thousands of intricacies that a vending machine actually has. Yeah, why not? And
yeah,
exactly. There is, of course, if you write a story of how pharmacy, how cooking, how whatever solves the day, then of course kind of have to write stories in that way where the character's knowledge or expertise or whatever solves the problem.
Well, what's the writing? It's the old writing adage of write what you know, right? Like that's the common thing, you got to kind of. So on some level, it's like you'll get a bit of yourself is going to bleed into the work in that respect, I guess. I guess the big thing is I don't have a problem with this, right? And I mean, he's even said, there's not necessarily a problem with this, but he has a problem. I think because he's viewing it as the author self-insert, and he's just sick of seeing that, I guess. I think that he's interpreted that as being bad because he's finding it annoying rather than it, necessarily being bad.
Yeah, I do want to quickly, before we move on, I want to mention that I do appreciate when my field of studies is accurately represented in a piece of work. I was playing a loot game upon a time. And they had a laboratory, and you know how it is with laboratories. Oh, get the files and mix chemicals, and ta-da, it's done. But then this game had to upgrade the lab, and they were talking about fume hoods. Oh,
yeah, fume hoods. Yeah, very important.
Bunsen burners. Ooh. Pure burners, vacuums, vacuum tubing, and
all that fun stuff. Yeah,
pipettes, and everything that I know is in a lab was in that loot game with a laboratory, and I said, "Damn, this is the best representation of labs in a game that I've seen."
And it's in a porn game.
And I know that guy. I see my mic peaks at times. So I'm going to soften it a little bit.
Soft yourself down a little bit.
Yeah.
It can't be any worse. It can't be any worse than me raging last time.
No.
But anyway, I'll leave.
Yeah, I know that whoever made that part also was in a laboratory like me, and I felt a connection there.
Knew this shit. Yeah, knew this shit. Yeah. All right, well, let's continue.
Your own writing. The issue is to appeal to a mass audience, self-insert characters tend to be based around the viewer. You. And the author doesn't know you, so they come up with the most rudimentary traits that everyone likes. Now you can pretend you are an MC and have your own flock of anime women who all want you to have their children for saying thank you at the drive-thru window, because no one has ever done that in that universe. Speaking of anime women, what's with them too? While the guy protagonist...
Oh boy, here we go.
I'm not impressed with his self-insert bit.
Me neither. I think that like it's like I said, right? It's like sometimes it's contextual, right? It's like sometimes I can see that, but other times I feel like it's a bit it's overused, honestly. Like I feel like it's an overused kind of criticism of these shows to be like, oh, they're all just bland self-insert. You just want to, get with the anime womans or whatever.
Yeah. If it applies, I dropped that Hokkaido Gals show this season. I dropped it because it was a little bit too much. The main character was not well enough defined for me, and the main girls were, to me, overly interested in him just because he came from the big city, from Tokyo, and he would suddenly go into countryside Hokkaido. It was a little bit too much. Where in Dress Up Darling, the interest to me was completely believable. Why attractive girl wanted to hang out with lame craftsman boy was completely, normal. I wasn't into the dynamic of Hokkaido gals. I suppose the guy was a self-insert because most people are from the city, the most urbanized place in Japan. Most people over there.
Right.
So I suppose there is a fantasy of you going to the countryside and all the girls are all over you.
You go to the countryside and it's like, ooh, special city boy.
And then you get all the girls because you're special, and that's maybe a self-insert fantasy. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyhow, let's continue.
This is a hamburger without the patty, tomato, cheese, lettuce, onions, and pickles. The anime girls are written as if I ordered at an overpriced ice cream store. One flavor tastes like someone pissed in the mixing bowl. They all have one personality trait and no more. She's the shy one. She's the tsundere. Every anime girl in the protagonist harem also has at least one scene with the MC where there's some romantic undertones to make sure the part of the audience that likes that girl has enough material to jack off for the next 2 months. Don't get me wrong, I love my—
How crude.
So, well, I mean, there's a lot of generalizations going on there. A lot of and I think that this is kind of the problem with trying to be the haha funny man, right? Because I can see what he's trying to do here. He's trying to be the haha funny man, but I think that being the haha funny man over generalization. Look! It's so ironic. It's they're all just the tropes, right? They're all just their singular little tropes. I feel like that kind of hurts his point a little bit when he's trying to do that. Because I mean, to be fair, right? There are a lot of cases where it's like, oh, the girls are just, the trope, right? The tsundere or the kandere or the, that one's the tomboy one or whatever, right? Like, it exists, it happens. But I think that being so overgeneralized, broad brush, every isekai is like this, right? I think causes more harm to his point than good. What do you think?
Yeah, I maybe because I want it to be, I want something a little bit serious, right? With, with the title isekais are terrible.
Isekais are terrible, but they don't have to be, right?
Yeah, but
like,
is this is unique to isekai though?
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's not unique to isekai at all, and I mean, I'm not expecting, because again, this guy is known for haha funny irony humor type stuff, right? So I kind of get it, right? I get that that's his style and stuff, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I just think that when he's trying to make a serious point, I think putting on the irony glasses and being, all super funny. Look, I'm generalizing all these anime girls. They're just boring tropes. Haha. I think it doesn't really help when he's trying to make a serious point.
Yeah, because what is his point? The girls are bland and tropey?
Yeah, that's basically the point. The point is all of the anime girls in the harem or whatever are all just the trope. There's nothing else, no substance, right? I don't like these kinds of criticisms because it's like I said, it's all contextual, right? Like, sure, there are shows out there where you can definitely levy that criticism at the show, right? Where the girls are like that. But to say that it's every isekai, it's every anime, it's every piece of media, like it really kind of grinds things down to a halt, right? When you're making such a broad generalization. And it's kind of annoying because it's like you can't actually be wrong, right? Because you can just fall back on, oh, but I'm just making a generalized statement. I'm not like, obviously there are exceptions to the rule or whatever, right? Because that would be like the common retort to someone to our criticism right now, right? It would be like, oh, he's just making generalized statements. But it's like, yeah, but doesn't if I can find like examples of isekais that don't have tropey women or don't have bland protagonists, then it kind of ruins what you're saying, doesn't it? It means that they're obviously not all you know the same,
Yeah.
right?
Shall we go a little bit further to when he maybe gets to a real point, other than just saying, "Oh, they're bland"?
Let's see where he goes. Yeah.
Like cat, fox, rat, dog, wolf, bunny, elephant, girl, Keminal Mimi hybrids, but every girl is just so plain. I'm willing to go as far as to say that harem shows aren't even that bad. I thought Quintessential Quintuplets was alright, and I thoroughly enjoyed the 100 girlfriends who really, 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 really love you, but in these shows, the singular characteristic that each girl has significantly more depth and dynamic than whatever factory produces the isekai harem. Not only are the characters extremely grating, but why is everyone using the same tropes known to man?
Ooh, maybe because they are written under similar circumstances on the site.
Maybe because this. What's the term? The database. What's it using?
Yeah,
fancy geoterms, right?
Just the Otaku database or just the database.
Yeah, like maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. Maybe because there's like. God, I hate this too because it's like this applies to everything. Like what Marvel movies? Like all Marvel movies fucking pull from the same tropes, right?
Soap operas.
Like
how many soap operas are
dramas,
the same?
all American dramas. How many American dramas are all the same? How many 24 clones are there? Like there's all this like. I feel like there's a lot of pots calling kettles black right now. A little bit. It's like asking why every shonen. Yeah, Samu's right. It's like asking why every shonen has a tournament arc, right? It's like, yeah, there's gonna be a tournament arc in a shonen because that's what people are coming to the show for, right? They want to see the characters. Yeah.
It's a very effective tool to have characters match up on characters that would fight each other, that otherwise wouldn't fight each other, and also give a ranking of characters, and you can have characters lose without massive stakes most of the time. A tournament is an incredible tool for battle shonen because it offers so much flexibility, and you can have the main character lose without the story ending. It's a great tool for battle shonen.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do with it too. Like it's not So that's kind of what we're saying here is like there's this like weird. I've noticed this a lot with the younger generation. There's this weird idea that tropes on their own are bad. Like just having trope, right, is bad. There's no it's this weird idea that context doesn't matter, right? Oh, there's a tsundere, that means it's bad, right? Like the execution of that trope is completely ignored, and they only focus on the fact that the trope exists in the story at all. Oh, you used this overused trope that I have deemed as overused because some YouTuber said so or whatever, right? That means it's bad show. Time to put it in the trash, right? I've noticed this relatively, like when I say recently, within the last like 5 years, right? This idea, and I hate it. I think it's dumb because it completely removes context and the ability to properly analyze. okay, so they're using this trope. Okay, how are they using it? What
no,
are they doing
I think
twist?
you're worrying maybe a little bit too much, because in the end, if you like the show, right, you're one of those youths that hate the yanderes, right? If there's a yandere, you hate it. But then there's Mirai Nikki, Future Diaries, and you love the show, and the main girl is a yandere, then it's fine. It's fine if you like it.
It's okay. It's okay when I do it. Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
that's the thing, right? I have things that I don't like in my anime shows, but if it's done well, it's done well.
Yeah, but I'm saying there's this contingent of people that don't seem to understand that. They don't seem to get that, and they'll
make excuses for their favorite thing, their favorite show that has everything that they say they hate. Don't worry about it, I say.
Yeah. They want. Samu says, they want to have the show be completely original, but if it's too original, they can't understand anything and they get mad. Yeah. Yeah, not wrong, Sam. I've seen that too. It's like, oh, why can't we have more original things, Ellie? And then an original thing shows up, and they just start fucking shitting themselves because they can't understand it. It's funny. But anyhow, let's keep going.
Something about a hidden, overpowered skill that only the main character has, or a hero's party, or a demon lord, or a leveling system. What do levels mean in the real world? I get that most isekai just slap someone from today into a game, so I guess a leveling system makes sense in that regard. But there are straight up some fantasy shows that have a leveling system without being tied to any game or MMO. And it's like they need a power gauge, but in the
most of those the isekais, I suppose, because it's about isekais. Most of those isekais with explicit leveling and stat screens eventually do reveal there's some nefarious or greater plot or stuff or thing system from the gods that makes it so. Don't worry about it, my dude.
Don't worry about it. Well, I think that there's also this not recognizing. It's like we were just talking about the utility of tournament arcs, right? I feel like there's a utility in this stuff. We talked about this a little bit when I think I mentioned this when we talked about solo leveling, and we'll probably talk about solo leveling this week because it's one of the ones we've been able to watch because we're doing an earlier stream this week, so we kind of we can't talk about some shows, but we can talk about others. But I mentioned in solo leveling, I'm interested to see how long they continue to have the stats and the video gaming elements be relevant, because of the fact that a lot of the time you will have cases where it's there and it's useful, it's used for like the start of a show to kind of establish certain things, and then it barely comes up again, right? To the point where you might as well like not have even had it. So I can understand. So I'm saying that I understand where this guy's coming from, right? I get his criticism, but at the same time, I think it ignores the fact that one of the reasons is, let's say, like, because if we're talking about a light novel where it's text, right? You need a way that you can kind of convey, character is getting stronger, or character is acquiring new abilities, or character is able, to do things. And I think that a video game style leveling system and whatnot is quite frankly like one of the easiest ways to kind of convey that to a viewer. Because even if you haven't played video games, right, everyone understands the very basic human concept of number go up, right? Strength +5, right? Agility +6 or whatever, right? It's very easy concepts to understand, especially if you're like reading a story as opposed to like watching a show, right? So I think that it gets a bit of a bad rap when I feel like it's just being used as more of a narrative tool than anything, right?
There is, of course, we are living in an era that everybody knows video games, right? And therefore to
an extent,
Yeah, but enough, right? If you're into anime, you know what a game is. You have played a game with levels. Even if it's something like Apex, that has levels, that has character, or, destiny, or I'm playing Shadow of War or more, Shadow of Mordor, Middle Earth.
Mordor or whatever, yeah.
I've playing, the sequel, and that has levels and character gear levels and whatnot.
And stats. And this orc is better. This orc is better than this orc or whatever, right?
Yes.
Like, different.
So, you can get away with it a lot more because everybody knows, or enough people know, for that you can, ignore the people that don't.
Yeah, but I think that like with the criticism of why is like the game system in a story where it probably doesn't need to have a game system. I feel like he's missing the fact of just how fucking useful it is as a narrative story.
Yeah. Also, right? All these stories are probably written by complete amateurs that grab the most easiest cheat tools you can imagine.
They're pulling from that database, right? They're pulling from what came before, right?
Yeah.
So Samu says, the leveling system is the equivalent to power levels in Dragon Ball. It just tells you what the person's capable of in a really easy way. Like, it's one thing to be like, you describe how strong someone is with a whole bunch of words, or you could just say over 9,000. You know what I mean? You could have this big description in the book, right? Of he's this giant muscular man, or he's got big sword. Muscular. He has a giant sword, and he's got a big gruff beard, and all. Or you could just say his power level's over 9,000, right? So. But anyhow, let's
just brain dead way possible. Also, for some reason, there's always that one girl being sold off as a slave, and the protagonist is so nice. He buys her or saves her in some other form and treats her like a normal person. And now she owes her life to him. The trend I've noticed is that since the isekai genre is already oversaturated with a bunch of generic shows, isekais coming out today have one unique quality to differentiate themselves from the rest, but all fall flat in terms of actual substance.
Yeah,
wow,
no example.
Hey, Magician of D is. When did you mod Magician of D?
When he threatened to destroy the channel.
Oh, okay. Hi guys, just so you know, I've undergone spiritual death, unless I am no longer.
Oh damn! Time to remove his mod status.
He's gonna remove his wrench. Rep.
The only mods are allowed are damn. Stupid heart thing is in the way. I can't demod you.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh, rip.
Damn, I suppose Magician D will stay a mod if I can't click the thing that removes him.
He'll stay a mod. Oh boy. So anyhow, to kind of talk about the point though, he's. Again, it's more generalizations. He's I will accept the bribe anyways. It's just and I find it annoying because he's got shows like the Sword Isekai on there, as like generic, which I don't like, because I actually really liked that show, because it's mostly about a father-daughter relationship in a sense, and it gets it kind of is playing into that. And I don't think there's necessarily a problem with how the show just wants to do one thing and do it well. It has one theme and wants to kind of explore that theme in a bit more depth. English is hard.
Is he being deaf in his?
He's being deaf in his stuff. Yeah. I feel like I think that I don't like how overly broad he's being, I guess, with this.
But he doesn't show any examples, right? He just he's stating it as a fact. Or
that's the other problem is he's stating it as like, all of these isekai just have the slavery in it, and it's like, okay, well, while it's true that a lot of them
I've heard it on enough, and of course, if he thinks that, all right, but then he says that it's oversaturated, debatable. But then
we've already gone over that a number of times.
Yeah, so I'm skipping over that. But then he says they all, just take one thing, right? Besides the fact that it's completely normal and everybody does one thing different from the rest. He doesn't give any examples of anything, right? just even otome games, it's completely wrong to say it, but isekai, but with a girl protagonist. What an otome game has its own lineage and whatnot, but that's at least an example how misinformed it is.
Yeah.
Even say isekai, but the guy is a sword.
Oh, you're still there? I lost you there for a second.
Oh no, I'm here.
Oh, I thought you were like still talking, and you decided to. You're just being quiet on me.
Maybe there was a hiccup, but
maybe whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna Samu's gonna have a cold take that could be hot, but people hate the slave trope. Just hate. Yeah. I've talked about before that like people get like blinded by the whole slavery thing, where they're just like just having it there, and like we talked like I think there's a clip. Did I make a clip about that? I might have to make a clip about that. It was in that one stream where it'll never be good enough. Slavery is always as soon as it shows up, it has to be dismantled. You can't fucking.
Oh yeah, I had some criticism of Shield Hero on that, right?
I think you did, yeah. I'll have to go back to that stream and see because I think I made a clip out of that. I can't remember, but I should make a clip out of that because it was a pretty good point. I think. What do people hate more, slavery or incest? Ooh, that's a tough one.
Well, the thing is, right? If you're asking the Americans, they were very fine with slavery, but not incest. So
yeah.
Making the jokes until Lolly is here.
yeah. All right.
The world as a vending machine, as a spider, as a farmer.
Yeah, he's being very, very dismissive of
he's giving examples right now. All right, that's fine.
Yeah. Jumping the gun, Ellie. Jumping the gun. But I mean, but even his examples are bad because it's like, vending machine, right? Like that does. I mean, you've talked about how vending machine is, not necessarily terrible, right? So I mean, and then Spider's not terrible. Spider's good. Spider's actually good. So I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, I think it's kind of got convoluted in season 2 territory in the manga at least. But it's pretty fun. I haven't watched the farmer one, but that looks like a slow life isekai, and slow life is its own thing. Have I told you about slow life?
Is that this new version of slice of life?
No, it is. There's no conflict. It's just for the tired salarymen that don't want some hot-blooded adventure.
It's just chill. It's just chill times.
Chill. No, that 300 years of killing slime, where the girl, when the protagonist died from overworking at the desk,
and it's just chill.
And therefore, she punishes anybody that tries to overexert themselves, and she's just chilling with her friends, and that's the show.
Having fun.
That's kind of that's slow life.
Interesting. Apparently, the isekai farming one is fun, and the MC is a Giga Chad.
Sure, he's a farmer that takes some muscles.
Yeah. All right, let's continue.
Isn't that so? I'm not saying I will instantly explode you with my mind if you put a trope in your writing. Tropes, when used properly, aren't even that bad. So
it's weird because he's no, but it's weird because he's like, he just had like this whole fucking thing about how tropes are bad, and now he's just gonna be. He does that thing that all these anime tubers or whatnot do, right? Where it's like, make statement, right? Walks back statement almost immediately. Guys, it's not. I'm not saying it's that bad, guys. I'm just saying it's bad. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to commit. They don't want to commit. To the thing. It's just I'm just joking, guys. Haha. But it's like dude, commit to the point, right? Are you saying the tropes are bad or not? And if you are saying the tropes are bad, maybe actually explain why. Why is it bad that the trope is there?
So,
right?
I the terrible writing advice guy, right? He said
your favorite YouTuber.
Yeah. Or my eternal enemy. Who knows? Don't worry, I don't actually care. He makes a bunch of videos on bad trope usage, right? So he actually wrote a book. I've told you, I believe I told you already.
I think you might have. But for the stream, you can.
Yeah, for only in text, probably. He wrote a book, and the book sold terribly. That's not the point. Point is that he deliberately avoided tropes, and the book suffers for it.
Right.
Because
so what does that tell you, right?
That tropes are good to use.
Yes.
Because there's the main character refuses the call to action, the call of adventure, and keeps refusing, and then the story meanders. Some of the reviews said that.
Right, okay.
Also, he pretends to have a publisher when he doesn't, and publishers are, of course.
So is he trying to say that Reincarnated is a sort of... I think he's just using random footage, I think, of isekais, and considering the fact that he's like brought up Sword and Spider and a few others as examples, I don't know. Does he like them? Does he not like them? Is he lumping them in with all the other ones? Who fucking knows, right? And that's why there's a bit of a problem here, in that he kind of should be elaborating a bit more on what instead of making generalized statements, you should actually talk about the specific shows that have this problem.
Before I went on my tabloid writing guide,
your little tangent,
I said give examples for good usage, bad usage. I mean, I suppose the single-minded isekai of Isekai but Spider, he did show examples of that. Good job. Now, what are those examples of good uses of tropes? I don't expect he actually would start giving those.
Let's find out.
So no Frieren, while it does have the entire Heroes Party and Demon Lord thing as a backstory, is far more different from the average fantasy or isekai anime. The base tropes in Frieren are elevated in a way to give the story more meaning, but in other shows, they're there to make up the story. As long as an anime can skillfully add on to these types of ideas instead of regurgitating the same thing I've seen in a billion other shows, it's all good. This has been for
So Frieren good, use trope good, isekai bad. Isekai no use good trope. Isekai bad. What do you?
It's kind of odd to use Frieren. He does, couch it in the correct language. He just say and fantasy. He adds that when talking about Frieren. At least he, has a good separation between fantasy and isekai.
Yeah, well, because you got to remember what he mentioned at the very beginning of the video was like fantasy is one of his favorite genres, which is why he's so angry at isekai, because he views isekai as encroaching on his child, basically, right? He's viewing the isekai, because so many isekais are based in fantasy settings. He views the isekai as basically shitting on the thing that he likes, right? Which is where I think he's getting this like overgeneralized kind of view from, I guess.
Yeah. But really, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a thing, right? From I like this show and how it does it. There is a, the guy that likes older women is always drunk and gets into trouble. There are a bunch of tropes in Frieren, and I suppose he just likes that show better. And they're
well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is I think that basic concepts like demon lords and hero parties aren't really tropes, though. To be a trope, it would have to be due to the specific way it's used. Magicianity's right. That's kind of the problem, is that he's conflating like. There's a lot of conflation going on in this video, right? Conflating, different things together. Like we were talking about, the conflation of insert characters and stuff, self-inserts and whatnot. So I think that's one of the problems he's got here. And it's annoying because I feel like he could have maybe. I've lost my point. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's left
Also,
my brain.
Samu, there are isekais in non-fantasy settings. There is our science fiction, still fantasy, I guess. But there is an isekai in a science fiction setting, or even Tanya the Evil, right?
Yeah, that's a good example.
Medieval. Yeah. And even if do you consider drifters fantasy? I mean, there are elves and dwarves and monsters and whatnot.
Drifters is kind of drifters. It's kind of its own thing.
It's not necessarily its own thing, right? This was in the conversation with Joe. Drifters gets its lineage from Senki stories, war stories.
Yeah.
It's very much about big war, troop maneuvers, maneuvering and taking castles and whatnot in battles. So Drifters takes much more inspiration from those war stories, historical war stories, than it does from fantasy. So yeah, there are isekai stories that are not in a fantasy setting. Drifters is a bit of an edge case, I admit, but Tanya the Evil is not at all. And then you have something like a Local Horizon. Do you still consider that fantasy when it's kind of explicitly an MMO?
Yeah. There's it's like I've said, context matters, and there's it's a bit.
And of course, there are isekais that are fantasy.
That's why you can't. Yeah, it's why you can't like do what this guy's doing and do this whole broad strokes. Fucking you got to class everything together because it's all isekai and all isekais are the same.
And
right?
of course, I don't really like it as much, but there are of course the fantasy shows, isekai or not, that are later revealed to be actually super sci-fi. Because all the magic was super science fiction, super science, but that's still fantasy for all the parts that it matters.
Alright, let's continue.
Minutes of me ranting about what I hate about isekais and other fantasy-related animes, but I'm not here just to hate. As I said earlier, fantasy is my favorite genre, so I will now go off on what I think makes a good show. First,
here we go. This will be interesting. Let's see, Ali. What does he think's good?
First up is world building. World building is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically how a book or show creates an imaginary world. What kinds of nations are there? Are there different types of races? How does the power or magic system work? These are basic questions that any author should be asking themselves when trying to create an isekai. Other genres like mystery or rom-com are usually set in a setting that's similar to today because they don't really need all these systems. World building is fantastic.
Who's to say you can't have a rom-com in a fantasy world? What do you? What do you mean? Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think that's what he meant, but it does seem kind of like again, it feels like he's doing that broad strokes thing. It's like, these types of shows are served better by being in real life settings. When it's like, I don't know about that.
Well, the thing is, right, Frieren, for all the episodes that I assume that mattered when he was making the video, Frieren's world is generic as you can get.
Yeah, it is literally generic fantasy world. Yeah, like
it is the fantasy world with elves, dwarves, and whatnot. But Frieren is all about the personal experience of one elf and her very long lifespan.
This is a problem with the broad strokes thing. Is again, it like sometimes the show isn't necessarily focusing on the world; it's focusing on specific characters. But then you have cases like Overlord where it's about how those characters affect the world, in which case the world building is a bit more important in something like Overlord, where you have to be like, okay, here is the fantasy kingdom, and they have nobles, and there's the family tree, and then how are they going to react to Ainz being Ainz, right?
As a pure isekai, no video game elements at all.
Yeah.
Mushoku Tensei has very, this house, this branch family of this This guy has connections with this. And
there's the demon continent versus the main continent, right? And you have to travel between,
and all
this other stuff.
I assume you haven't read any of the light novels.
No, I have not. I have not read.
Yeah, because even though the maid Lilia, right? Lilia, she was a guard of this kingdom, and then she got injured, and then she got fired. She still has some loyalty to the kingdom, and Paul's mother, Rudy's mother is a kind of a duchess princess of this county and this nation.
And there's all this complicated mumbo jumbo bullshit.
So
right?
the world building goes pretty deep in Mushoku Tensei, and then you have Frieren that has almost none at all. I suppose it has some good world building in what is a demon and whatnot.
Yeah, well, it has good world building in terms of establishing like demons versus humans.
It's
there is a little bit of
everything is assumed to be what you expect until otherwise.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And so anyway, I don't think you can say that about Mushoku Tensei. That is really from if you don't know it, it's probably not what you think.
All right.
Strongest and most unique card, because the limit is literally your imagination. Doing it right, a viewer can not only absorb themselves into the world, but also play around with all the mechanics the author came up with. It essentially makes your fantasy universe more grounded. Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation is a perfect example of this. A massive beam of light displaces many people, including Rudy, the isekai protagonist. He is forced out of his comfort zone and sent to the other side of the continent that's barren and filled with danger. On his journey home, he visits different towns, areas, and people, such as a village of cat people. You love to see it. Or he comes across...
So...
his comfort zone was already kind of broken when he was forced into, the big city from his comfy house. But besides that, there's not necessarily anything wrong what he said about him going to different places, but I will again poke fun at him and say Frieren goes to a whole bunch of different places, and there is zero real world building beyond what you already know.
I think that he's how would I put this, right? Like, I feel like he's kind of I have to kind of think about this because there's a point that's like forming in my head, but I haven't quite materialized it. It's kind of this thing good because XYZ, not recognizing that other shows can be good for different reasons without having to do XYZ, I guess. Because I'd bring up Overlord again, right? Like Ainz, they don't necessarily go to too many different places yet. They've been going to different places as they've been kind of progressing a little bit, right? Like they go to the underground thing.
Or you haven't read them?
Well, yeah. I'm anime tunneling visioning right now, right?
All right.
But like, obviously they go to like the dwarves and whatnot, or they go to like different places, right? But I think that but the thing is, Overlord is focusing on a completely different thing. Right, it's focusing on the characters interacting with where they are and what they're in, and then also how
the world really
and then how the world reacts to that. Yeah. So just because Ainz doesn't get like teleported away, to a different fucking part of the continent, right? I don't necessarily think that makes Overlord bad or generic, or like others like Tanya, right? Tanya gets transported to pseudo magical World War I or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so you now have all these interesting things about, I read a little bit of the manga for Tanya, right? And it's fascinating how the author will just have these giant fucking text boxes, paragraphs and paragraphs of text to explain to you the eccentricities of this obscure Napoleon era fucking army formation tactic or some shit, right? Like they go into this like insane level of detail about military tactics or philosophies and random shit like that, right? And so obviously that was important to the author to convey that to the viewer, right? And if we go back to the anime, right, it's kind of like, it's obvious that the show's focusing on, you know, this historical warfare, how warfare has been changed by magic, how magic would like change the way cavalry works, right? Because you have like these literal fucking artillery pieces flying in the sky, right? How that it changes things. So I think that, again, as I've said multiple times in this cast, and I don't like repeating myself, but I end up doing it anyway, context matters. Different shows do different things. It's better to look at a show on its merits and how it actually handles the things that it's trying to do, rather than do some stuff. Show don't tell. Kind of, David. You've come in a bit late, but basically the guy's trying to make the point that isekai bad because isekai self-insert, isekai no world building, but then he uses Mashoko Tensei as an example of good world building, and Frieren as an example as well. So,
but Frieren has no world building, almost no world building at all.
Not particularly, I guess. But anyway, let's continue.
So nah, I'd win, guy. The world is much more livelier and, in a way, realistic because it continues to exist with all these mechanisms with or without the protagonist. The biggest thing I think isekais are missing out on is being isekai'd itself. What I'm saying is that even if they're reincarnated into a different world, that doesn't mean their insecurities and issues magically poof out of existence. It's a second chance at life, and while many shows love using the wisdom and personality the characters have from their previous lives, you gotta take the good with the bad. Being isekai'd is a perfect opportunity for development and growth. Even though you're in a world that would make every Final Fantasy XIV player cream their pants, you still have to somehow navigate that world with your own mindset. I think a perfect example of this is ReZero. I don't care if you don't like it.
Well, the thing is, right, not all isekais are about big character growth.
Yeah, that again, it's like context matters. Different shows try to do different things.
Because,
it's not
our guy from Shield Hero, Naofumi, was a completely reasonable and well-adjusted guy until he picked up a random book and then got
then he gets accused of and then he becomes accused of the rapes.
And then he gets develops
massive, then he becomes jaded,
massive trust issues in the isekai world. So, getting to the isekai world was the worst thing that happened in his life.
But I'm willing to bet if you asked our boy here, he would say that Shield Hero bad, right? Like, at least the first part of Shield Hero, because obviously it has dropped off, obviously, right? But like, the first season of Shield Hero bad, right? Yeah, YouTube emotes are shit. Well, we can't do custom emotes until you guys start getting us 1,000+ something viewers, and we can open members.
Yeah, and 8,000 viewer hours or something.
Then we can start looking at getting emotes or whatever. I don't even know what kind of emotes would we even have. Would we have to have like Naretsu Rage?
I don't know. I mean, one of them has to be slime.
Yeah, slime. Just have slime. Yeah. But anyway, back to the video, right? Like, I feel like the core problem I have with this entire video is just the broad stroke stuff. I think it's harming his video quite a bit to be so generalized, when I feel like he should, instead of talking about all isekais ever, it would have done him better to be like, okay, here are these specific issues I've had with these specific shows. How can we do it better? Right? What are some examples of doing this better? What would I like to see more of versus what I'm not getting from these shows
my problem with bringing back the gacha from before this video, right? I have no experience with gacha, and I made a silly overgeneralization with the gacha. Not that I changed my mind necessarily. But I'll be careful and just call out something like Grand Fate Order or something for having no character deaths at all, because it can't. Because
and then someone that actually plays Fate Grand Order is going to come in and tell you you're wrong.
Well, or maybe Fire Emblem Heroes. I have that on my phone. I haven't played it in a very long time.
But then someone's gonna come in and say that since then it's okay, alright, I'll stop bullying you. But like, I get what you mean though. I get what you mean, right? It's sometimes it's better to be Pacific. But anyway, let's continue. Oh well, 6.5. So you should have trimmed the fat a little bit. Yeah, I can't. Well, I mean, it's interesting because the video is only 10 minutes, right? It's actually a very short video, all things considered.
Yeah, there is trimming the fat, and there is being skin and bones, right?
Yeah,
I don't think
like
this
I think
video...
he needs to be more concise. I think rather than trimming the fat.
Well, I've been told or heard that a good video is kind of a story that of discovery, and he does. If we're going to do a small video recap review, he has a storyline in this, right? So it's not a bad video which is overly bloated with fat. So no, viewer, you are wrong. I am being YouTuber.
Oh no. But anyhow, let's continue.
Because the example Subaru, the main guy, obviously gets isekai'd, but his previous life still lingers. As a kid, he used to be talented and outgoing, but as Subaru got older, his accomplishments started diminishing and he slowly became a recluse. Subaru doesn't have a lot of confidence in himself, and it really shows throughout the anime, putting everyone else first before his own needs. When confronting his past because of a really complicated dream sequence that I'm not going to explain, Subaru realizes that he shouldn't have put so much weight on the validation of others, striving to do the best he can in the reincarnated world for the sake of his own goals. Subaru also comes with a second development. Surprise, surprise. His super cool, unique, overpowered ability is that whenever he dies, he awakens at a previous set point in time, essentially allowing him to see into the future and change it. What a save scummer. However, he becomes so accustomed to this that it actually starts taking a toll on his mental state, and when anything goes wrong, he just decides to grill himself because it's easier to start over. Subaru learns that he shouldn't try being a perfectionist since it causes too much anguish to keep dying and forcing events to play by his script. I understand not everyone likes Subaru
Spoilers.
Spoiler warnings.
I mean, I don't really necessarily like. He's just talking about what happens in ReZero. He's not really making a point. So I mean, I guess he's just saying, "Oh, this does it well, right? This is an example of it doing it well." But I'm sitting here thinking, I could probably think of like several other, like, I mean, Spider. I mean, she had a somewhat of a personality before she got isekai, and then she, that carries over. Like I can think of maybe a couple of examples, right?
Well, if it just the previous life being a constant factor in the isekai world, yeah. I mean, ReZero is very much one. Mushoku Tensei is definitely one. It's a complete journey of being a better person. I would say even something like Tanya the Evil, because she brings her neoliberal views constantly into the World War I time.
And the whole harsh businessman attitude. Fuck God. that comes as well. So yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, I'm not like, I don't see how this is like. This is God. Stop using the broad brush, because obviously there are isekais that do this well. Maybe stop trying to paint all of the isekais with that broad brush. D comes in and he says, this really depends on the story in question. Swordman from the Sword Isekai doesn't need to be that fleshed out because Fran can take that role. Yeah, that's another thing, right? It's like, what is the author trying to do, right? What is the author trying to convey? What is important to be, talked about, which is why I brought up like the Tanya the Evil thing, right? Like what are they trying to give to impart to the audience, right? And it doesn't have to be the same thing all the time, right? Different things. So
I wanted to just bring up a few extra protagonists, right? Because I favor the villainous main protagonist, right? She is she lived her life as a repressed lesbian, and she hated that. So this life in her video game, otome game, she's now finally free, but still
she gets to be big gay, yeah.
But she still has some lingering issues with that. But there are other stuff like it gets kind of messy when game knowledge of the actual game is being brought up, because that's very much a pre isekai knowledge going into the game, into the isekai. But then you have something like Bookworm, where it's all more of her personality, her disposition that's being brought over. Same as All Flags Lead to Doom, where it's not the person being reincarnated, but more the memories come back. That's less of a complete memory wipe and whatnot. Also, the girl in from the Genius Princess, I forget exactly. The one where she says, "Dad, I'm gay. I'm not going to marry. Don't worry about the inheritance. My brother will take care of that."
Jumps off the sink. I'm gay.
Yeah. My brother will be king. Take me out of the inheritance. I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah.
To finish that,
I'll let you finish and then we'll go.
Yeah. She is reincarnated, but she doesn't have firm memories of actually living in a modern world.
Right.
That's a kind of a third option, just a vague notion of wanting to fly and being a witch but can't. There are a lot of ways you can have their previous personality or not, like the last example, when it's more of a vibe that's being brought over instead of a person.
Alright, well, let's continue. We're almost done.
As a character, but I think his development is what really makes him shine versus every other isekai protagonist. He had like 2 moments of development.
So, but even here, he has to be fucking ironic, haha, funny man. Oh, he only had 2 moments of development versus the other guy. I'm so funny.
Well, this is more of an, I see more of an arrogance, right? He knows every isekai, and he just has Kirito, I guess, and Subaru. What about Mushoku Tensei guy? He goes into developments every other episode.
Yeah, he had an entire arc about ED, and
then before
funny.
Boundaries and respectability and
just he learned to respect women,
self-reliance and asking people for help and all that's. At least 7 personality development arcs or something for Mushoku Tensei. Why not bring him up, funny guy? Is it because
Kirito
it wasn't?
Girl, what are you talking about? Yeah, exactly. But anyhow, let's get
versus the usual 0. Okay, that's a pretty big achievement. Honestly, though, I'm just a silly little YouTuber giving my thoughts on today's isekai and fantasy shows, and
I'm just a silly little YouTuber. My opinion doesn't matter. It's not.
Well, we are just even smaller YouTubers, so our opinions are even more valid.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, no. He's doing that ironic thing where it's like, oh, I have to irony shield myself from criticism by going, haha, it's just an opinion. It's just my opinion. I'm just, I'm such a small little guy on the YouTubes, just saying things. You can't criticize me or whatever. And yeah, it's dumb. So let's continue.
Understand that writing anything in general takes a lot of work, which is why to help aspiring authors come up with better shows, I'm gonna give my best isekai idea. Make sure to credit me if you ever use this one.
Here you go, Ellie. You ready? You ready to hear his great idea?
And then I immediately name 5 isekai that does it already.
Yeah, let's see what he has to say.
Obviously starts off with the MC dying and being sent to the afterlife, and God is like,
Nice music, I guess.
And gives him super epic fighting reflexes and magic skills. So at the start of his journey, this Yi guy, he's not me, the name is spelled differently, okay? Is like,
wow, this world sounds really cool. Hey God, can I have my phone?
And God is like,
Naratsu, I think he's being a funny.
Is it fun? Are we laughing though?
I am not at all.
Yeah, we're almost done. Let's just crank through.
And now Yi is in another world with his smartphone. He goes and meets these two girls who are sisters or something and saves them from a predicament they definitely could have saved themselves from. And they're like, oh my god, you're so hot and handsome, you must have like 2 million subscribers. Wanna join us in the party, teehee? And he's like,
okay.
And they do a quest together, and after the quest, Yi starts talking about how much he likes anime and streams it illegally to them on his phone, and the sisters are not only amazed by the technology, but also at Naruto Uzumaki and how he's really strong, and they don't make fun of Yi and call him a loser for liking anime. And that's the start to Yi's adventurer party, where the rest of the members are cute anime girls who are romantically interested in a brain-dead protagonist. So yeah, I think this could air for like at least 12 seasons. Tell me what you guys think in the comments.
So what'd you think? Do you think his idea is pretty good? Do you think his idea is pretty good idea for an
I
isekai?
did not laugh.
Yeah, I did not laugh either. That was kind of shitty. It was kind of cringe. Sorry, you posted cringe. You posted cringe. Samu would watch it, I guess.
Oh no.
So overall, my final thoughts, I guess, are, I mean, it's pretty much what I've been saying the whole time. I think the broad strokes problem is really the major issue I have with this video. Is I feel like it would have served him better to actually talk about the specific tropes a little bit more rather than trying to broad stroke those tropes onto every isekai. Just pick apart those individual tropes and why some shows do them bad, some shows do them good, right? Like, I think that would have been a much more interesting video. I don't necessarily want to make the point that I'm always criticizing other people for, where it's like, you criticize him for making the video that he didn't make, right? You know, like, because I don't think that's productive. But personally, I think that if I was going to be doing something like this, I would have not have done a broad strokes approach. It would have been a lot better if it was more nailed down in specifics. And you could still be like, haha, funny man, right? Like, there's plenty of room to keep that, because that's his style, right? That's what he does. But I think that being so broad harmed the overall point of the video. So that's my assessment. What do you think, Kelly? What's your
I feel that this video kind of suffers from, he had a point in his head and he didn't really, do research or looked up shows, or he let his assumptions lead the way. And I felt that also there was, when facts got in the way of the funny one. You know, like our great chatters said, Kirito definitely picks a girl. It's Asuna, the girl on screen right now, almost dying.
Other girls might want his dick, but he has picked a girl.
He has picked very much a girl, very decisively picked a girl. So why make the joke that he can't pick a girl? It's Asuna. So that's what I mean with, when funny and fact interject, the funny will win in this video. But also, kind of lazy research, kind of running on assumptions and what you said, overgeneralization. I would think the video would be better served if he would pick on the things on shows that he didn't like, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean by, like, if he was a bit more specific, right? Rather than being isekais are a problem. Isekais are bad. No, talk about the specific shows that you thought were bad, not, like if he did have a problem with the sword show, right? Like, I would have preferred it if he had picked on that, right? Because then you could, because I've watched the Sword Show, right? I can counter his points or agree with his points, right? But if he's talking about just every single isekai ever made, it becomes a lot harder to nail it down, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if they picked like 3 shows and said, I don't like this about these shows and I see it too much in other isekai, then we could complain and moan about, oh, but the other shows have good stuff too, but it would be far less, an actual argument than
Well, yeah, but like, then we could get into, is his criticism valid or not?
of those shows, and then
of those shows, yeah.
And then it becomes far more of a personal opinion thing rather than he's just saying that all isekai is this, and then we can come in with facts and logic and destroy his soul, and
we can get Ben Shapiro out, and we can do some facts and logic.
But if it was specific shows, we had very little legs to stand on.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we can kind of move on to talking about but I don't think we've watched a lot of anime because of the timing. But we can talk about a couple.
I have watched something. 1 second, if I would go to the correct screen.
Fancy time. Fancies. Wee.
Whoosh, whoosh.
Fancy transition. Whoosh. Whoosh. You're gonna have to move the Fugis a little bit because it's like I'm moving away from you. Like, get away from me, Ellie. Get away from me. You're too close.
There.
Yeah. There we go. Now we're a little bit. Yeah, we're best friends now.
Hey.
We're friends. So anyway, so what do we want to talk about? Because I've watched Magical Girls and Rogue, and we can talk about Solo Leveling too because I watched that because obviously that's like that was last week.
Let's go into the alphabetical order that I have right here, starting with shows we will both watched. Solo Leveling.
So now we're starting to get a bit more into mechanics of what's going on, and he's starting to kind of understand, okay, I have to grind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And get the levels and become the big strong man. Put all the and he's starting to notice the improvement in his strength and whatnot. And I think it'll be interesting to see how it continues to progress. I feel I can kind of see why this was hyped up, right? Because it definitely has that feeling of, oh, weak man become the big strong man, and that's satisfying. Like he one shot. Well, he doesn't one shot, but he tosses the sword at the giant golem at the end of the episode, and it's like a moment of, oh, he is strong, right? But then there's also this idea of, oh, I don't want to, people, they all are only in it for themselves. They betrayed me. They ran off, right? When going back to the room with the god or whatever, right? So I want to be solo man, detached, right? There's this level of him wanting to switch off his emotions and be detached, right? That's kind of being undertoned a little bit as he gets stronger. I kind of picked up on that in some of what he was saying when he was fighting the wolves. Like, there was a little bit of that. So that's why I'm saying it. Like, I feel like there's this idea that he wants to, like, become strong, but he's not necessarily becoming strong for others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's weirdly, going solo when I don't really see. I guess he has a trauma, but I'm not really sold on his trauma. That might be just a me issue.
I think it's probably. I do have to say that because I've watched a couple of videos, as I mentioned before, of that one guy who like compares like the different versions, like the manga and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently in the manga, it's a lot more explicit that he is starting to become cold, right? And he wants to become cold and the reason he wants to do that is specifically because he felt betrayed a little bit by the fact that he got abandoned by the one guy who with the sword who ran off, right? and then that made the other two have to leave because they couldn't watch all of the things together, right? And he felt, oh, everyone's only out for themselves. Like, he understands why, but he's got this like thing in his head, right? This trauma, as you would put it, right? And it's kind of affecting the way that he's thinking. And that's interesting. That is interesting. But again, it's gonna be a matter of just waiting and seeing where it goes, right? Because it feels to me like what's going to end up happening is he's like, what happens when he does get strong, right? Like, after we've had the progression, right, and he's become Giga Chad, right? Where do you go from there, right? Are we just going to keep power scaling everything, and he's going to have to fight like more and more powerful things, right? As the series continues, new enemies get introduced. Like, we had the hints at, different things. So I feel like there's gonna become a point where it feels like the series should just end, but it's not going to. If that makes sense. I don't know if you have the same opinions as me.
I don't have a great sense where it's going. I mean, the other the character on the poster appeared in the last episode. In the end, unknown why or where. Is he similar to our guy or not?
Well, I think it is the same guy. It's just him in the future. Like, because I think it's like because he changes his look as he goes through the series. I think.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I'm you know more than me.
You're just going off what you
know.
I think
I don't think the fight scenes are as unnecessary because I don't know because I haven't been reading the manga.
No, I haven't either. Like I said, I've just watched a video about it. So.
Yeah. The fight scenes are good. The big snake. The fight scene with the big snake was good. I do know Joe of Pause and Select fame famously loves reading manga, and every single one of them starts off very attractive, and then they get super duper buff and super duper attractive as the story goes on.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not 100% sold. I would, if I were more meaner and maybe more algorithm driven, I would make videos of solo leveling is over leveled or overrated in that sense.
I think that it has been a little bit gassed up because while I think it's good, right, I don't think it's bad. To me, this just feels like, oh yeah, it's very similar to stuff that I've already seen. Like, oh, you have the weak character strengthening himself, right, and becoming strong, right. But I do see why people like it though, right? Like, because it is a very, at its core, it's a very basic story, but at the same time, there's a lot to like.
I mean, it has real world or our normal world in it, and there is dungeon diving, loot gathering, Diablo style almost.
Yeah, how does the real world interact with that, and the
with fantasy,
the guilds and the organizations and the stuff? Yeah, so there's a lot to like. I think there's a lot to like in solo leveling. So I'm gonna keep up with it.
Yeah,
I think it's
all right. So next up, Metallic Rogue.
Yep, I did watch that.
I also did,
and it's interesting. I'm liking how we're now starting to kind of get a theme of freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to be free? How are we, like, what does freedom actually mean, right? Because you had like the line from the guy that was tragically killed off this one episode. See, this is a thing, right? I feel like the pacing's a little bit, because it's 13 episodes anime original, right? And they probably don't know if they're going to get another shot at it, right? Kind of feels like we're rushing a little bit. We're kind of going a bit quick. Like, it was an interesting kind of thing where obviously we saw, I guess, the other, for lack of a better word, metallic, people right? That have supposedly been killed along the way.
Call them immortals, I suppose.
The immortals that have been killed, as contradictory as that sounds, as the pre-show beginning, right? We saw like some of that in the like hallucinations that Rogue was having, right? So, and there's this. I think there's this interesting idea of like it's implied that she has to kill these other immortals to gain freedom, and that they're both kind of after the same thing, in a sense. And I'm gonna do a U, right? Big prediction, man. Big. I watch the OP and I make ideas based on the OP. When you watch the OP, there's a lot of symbolism of angel wings flying free, right? She has these wings that show up at one point, right? And she's there's the hand that's offering something, right? That comes down and offers her a thing. And I think that where this is heading is this idea of she's fighting for, I guess maybe not knowingly fighting for freedom, but she's going to kind of have like this awakening instrumentality type thing where she's going to gain an incredible amount of power or enough power to break free from whatever chains that she has, right? And that's going to, she's then probably going to be faced with some kind of choice, which may or may not involve the other girl, right? Does she take her freedom and let the other girl die or something like that, right? Like that's where I feel this is going now, right? Like I have because my main complaint the last few episodes has been, right, I have no idea what the fuck's going on, right? But now I'm kind of like starting to get like, okay, I kind of have an idea where this is going now. So do you agree with me, or am I just speaking bullshit?
I am still kind of unsure where it's going, because I was not expecting that two of the Immortal Nine show up.
Yeah, show up. Yeah,
in the same episode.
Up, yeah.
Not connected to the narrative at all. I very much liked the moment. I very much when the moment for fighting. When what's it called? When it's when it was the moment to fight.
Right, the big fight.
And when there was no escape or hiding.
Yeah,
when the darkness would be broken open.
Right.
To be shattered by the crimson lightning. That is a very cool song at the start of a battle to actually go, this is the moment for fighting.
Yeah, it was very good. I like, narrative aside, it's visually good.
Yeah,
very good visuals. Very, very good visuals, very good symbolism. Very, very interesting stuff going on, I think.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it going back to actual narrative and predictions and whatnot. I do have to admit that I saw some kind of odd angel-y vibe when they, injected themselves and they glow with all those rings and whatnot. They seemed a little angelic with all those gold motifs. I can see it, right? I don't. But yeah. I am just not sure where the story is going at all. I wish that the characters would be more ignorant, so more would be explained to them.
So yeah. So I think that one thing I noticed with the OP specifically with the wings, right? Like the design of the wings actually reminds me a lot of Evangelion. Funnily enough, because if you think about like the wings that were shown on like the end of Evangelion with the angels and stuff, and they have these kind of like wings that almost kind of look like, stick lightning bolts kind of coming out of them, right? That's the vibe I'm getting from those wings, right? So that's why I'm thinking about like, instrumentality, higher level of being, right? Like become a god, so and so, right? That the hand of God is coming down and bestowing, the pathway to freedom, to godhood, right? And I'm tying it to freedom because that was like the theme of the last two episodes, was like, okay, you have like the robot people getting oppressed by the humans, and they want freedom from the humans because that was what was promised, but they've been subjugated instead. And there's this like, oh, you could be a symbol of hope for us, right? Because you have more free will than we do, so you could be our savior, right? And she has to kind of think about that, right? This idea of being a savior. Yeah. So that's why I'm connecting the dots with the red twine on my corkboard, and I'm saying that's what the narrative is going to become about. It's going to be about she's collecting these cores or souls or whatever, and then once all of the Pokemon have been collected, once all of the souls have been collected, there's going to be some kind of ritual or code that's going to unlock inside of her, and she's going to become God or something, right? So she's going to become a higher being, angel type thing. And then she's going to have to choose, does she accept this new power and become a god, or is she going to use free will to remain a human or something like that, right? That's what I'm thinking.
So, just to finish this part off, right? I'm not sure if freedom will be the theme going forward, because freedom was very much tied to this detective guy, and this detective guy dies.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know if it's going to remain like as blatant, right? I'm not sure if it's going to be as blatant as the last 2 episodes, but I have a sneaky suspicion it is going to be relevant, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if the theme of freedom will continue after this guy dies and they leave this ghetto.
Well, we are going to possibly be fighting Clown Man and his goons,
but his thing isn't really freedom, it's desires.
Yes, which was highlighted in the conversation with whatnot. So, but maybe that's like kind of part of the thing, right? Maybe each one of them is meant to represent a different like aspect of humanity, right? Like the drive for freedom. I don't know what the singing girl would have been, right? But like maybe
she wanted to be left alone.
Yeah, maybe there's like that's kind of the theming that's going on, is she's like collecting different aspects of humanity, and that's going to, that's part of the but that's what makes it interesting. It's a very interesting show. It's very interesting. I was kind of being a bit like confused at the start, but I think that now that it's kind of like choked out the engine, right? It's kind of it's gotten all the soot out the engine, and it's starting to rev up. I think there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like.
Yeah. I'm going to be the mean one for 1 second and say, it wasn't an anime original, I might have dropped this because I just want more of the plot, more of a little bit more clarity on what's happening. But because it's an anime original and there is nothing else, I will be watching it because I'm interested in the story. But if there was a more accessible way, if there was a manga or whatever,
I can kind of see where you're coming
with
from.
more backstory and more text boxes that explain the setting, the world, the thoughts, the narrative, dialogues, monologuing. I would pick that over the anime, but there is nothing, so I'll keep watching the anime.
Yeah.
But let's close out Metallic Rogue and just briefly go over gushing over magical girls.
Yeah, let's go.
So Naruto, you're teasing the next episode.
Next episode. It will be next episode. Because now I think it's because of how they've so what they've done is they've kind of taken. So the introduction to Alice happened, and then what was going to happen next episode in episode, I think we're at 5, so 6, right? So episode 6, what happens in episode 6 was meant to happen after the first half of this episode, but they took what happened after episode 6 with Alice with the doll and put that in the same episode, so it's like an Alice episode. And there's been a lot of that with the show where they've been moving things around and kind of adding some extra anime original stuff as well to kind of make the pacing a little bit better for anime, right? Because with manga, it's not like it's a bit more episodic in the manga, right? Where you'll have like they introduce Alice, and then you'll have like a break, which will then be talking about because the title of the next episode is the history of the magical girls, right?
Secret
and
backstory
so you'll have
or something.
The backstory, yeah. So you'll have like that, and then it'll go back to Alice, right? So you have like the the story gets kind of segmented, at least in the beginning of the manga, before we start to have like actual arcs, right? It's a bit more episodic, right? But with the anime, my assumption is that the direction, right, the directors and whatnot, they probably want to have things kind of flow a little bit better and kind of be like, right, okay, we're going to introduce the characters, we're going to introduce things, and we're going to kind of do that, and then we'll do things a bit more in a sequence rather than jumping around, right? Because it makes more sense. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if half of the last episode was about Alice, and then suddenly you get thrusted into the backstory of some of the magical
and
girls,
then
right?
going back to Alice.
And then going back to Alice. So I think it's fine. I think it's fine for them to do that. It just means we got to wait one because my God, I fucking hope that gets done well. I'm like, it hinges on this.
They haven't betrayed your trust this far.
They haven't betrayed my trust this far, but it because I actually reread that chapter just to make sure I was like not fucking hallucinating, to make sure I was right, and it's like, no, yeah, I was right, like that. So the next episode is where I can't remember her name, but that's the blue-haired girl. The blue-haired girl and Utena have a moment, and it's Io, yeah. They have a moment that, and to me, it is what solidifies their dynamic as characters with each other, right? It creates like, this is the dynamic going forward, right? And I think it's very important for the character development for that moment to happen, right? And I think it says a lot about both of them as characters as well. So I won't spoil it, but that's kind of what I'm going to say.
You've been
to talk
hyping
about
it up
this
for 2 weeks now.
I've been hyping it up because I love it. I loved it because, again, that was I mentioned it last week, but that was the moment when I was reading the manga where I was like, okay, no, this is going to be good, right? This is going to be interesting shit,
yeah,
right? If they're going to keep doing dynamics like that, like talking about like showing these dynamics between these characters like this, where all of the characters are going to start to have these different dynamics, right? I'm using that term to not use a spoiler term, right?
Yeah.
The dynamics between how they interact, that's going to make this series super interesting to read, right? To have that interaction between them, right? So that's why I'm hyping it up, because it was such a pivotal moment when I read the manga. I just hope that it is done well and we get those fucking facial expressions.
All right. So
to talk about the actual episode that happened, right? Talk about the actual episode that happened. I'll let you go.
I'll go first. Yeah.
I've kind of ranted along, so I'll let you go.
So I think Alice is a kind of as a mute girl. She didn't speak a single word.
Well, when she transformed, she spoke in the second half, so she kind of does. She can speak, but yeah, she's mute for like 99% of the fucking time.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, and the even the ED also helps a lot, but it really kind of makes them the three bad girls, the villains, are becoming far more of a friend group very quickly. ED also really shows them being friends together, and being in an evil organization helped them be more socially outgoing with each other. That's good. Very little in regards to interactions with their rivals, the good girl, the magical girls.
Sorry, I'll let you go. I've already done that.
I kind of if I want more plot progression, I kind of missed some some going forward direction into interacting with the magical girls and Toma, if I'm saying it right.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
But I appreciate a longer focused episode on Alice getting her properly and fully introduced. I am curious to get more of her thoughts. It was kind of worrying when, just seeing a note from her mother saying, "Go buy some food."
Yeah.
Thing, but it's fine. Mother is there.
She just works. She just works long hours.
She was busy. She's happy that she has friends in Utena and Kiwi, so they're all fine. And I would like to see them continue being fine. But I'll go back to the previous episode real quick because there's an interpretation that I missed myself, but I saw somebody else mentioning that in the previous episodes, it started with Utena sliming up the 3 magical girls, and then she just leaves almost halfway through. Funny thing is that a Sulfur Yellow, it's frustrated the entire episode, being annoyed, picking fights. Oh, that goddamn clerk gave me a goddamn fork for this goddamn food.
She's very pent up. She's very pent up.
And then when she has a proper fight, she is released that pent up. That's just sex. The battles are sex to them.
Well, to her specifically.
To her,
right?
So I missed that interpretation myself, but that's a nice one. That's
yes, and that's what I mean about like dynamics, right? Because her dynamic is she loves to fight. She's big. She's like not really like it's kind of like hinted a little bit in like the thing where it's like, she's crowed, she's crass, she speaks in the Kansai dialect, she's a bit, she's not like your typical magical girl material, right? She's not cutesy, she's not, she has to like hide her like fists power stuff and not use it because she doesn't want to like give that image to the public, right, of her being a brute, right?
Well, I don't think she actually cares herself, but others might.
Well, no, she doesn't care. She doesn't care, but she understands that like perception's important, and she's doing it because the other cat, the fucking white version of the fucking cat thing is like, no, we need to think about the PR, please, no.
Yeah, there is a Anitsu video in that, right? In what Magical Girls is, and is this kind of a parody of how much merchandise there is of Magical Girls, and
there's some interesting stuff going on, right? But to get back to Sulfur, right, as a character, right, she's very much like being repressed by the Magical Girl stuff, right? She just wants to go out and beat the shit out of things, have a good time, release stress, have fun, but she's being repressed constantly by the mundane. Oh, I have to go to this dumb photo shoot. Yeah. Why do I have to do this dumb photo shoot? I want to go, this, she's swearing and being all crude and stuff, right? So that's what I mean when I'm talking about like dynamic. She has a dynamic with Utena and more particularly Kiwi, right? Where they both kind of play it because Kiwi also likes to fight. Right, Kiwi wants to get in the big fights and have big fun time fights, blow up things, right? Have fun, right? So they both kind of bounce off each other as a dynamic, right? They both want to have fun. Utena also wants to kind of play her role as the villain and provide that outlet, right? And this is why I think the show is, and the series itself is really, really, really interesting and really good, because it's taking this idea of, hey, why don't we like examine these dynamics a little bit, right? Let's showcase them and have a look into like the inner workings of them. And you can also, I find the allegory for sex, right, very interesting, because you could probably make an Anitube video, like you said, about that, and how you make that kind of interesting interpretation of it, right? About how she's all pent up and she wants to kind of relax, and she, a lot of people do use masturbation and sex as a form of relaxation, right? Is crazy as that might sound to some people, right? So yeah, there's a lot to talk about with Gushing Over Magical Girls. It's not just porn, Ellie. It's not just porn.
How I didn't know. Where did you get this idea from?
Oh no! Yeah. What happened last stream? Yeah. So yeah, I'm hyped for next episode. I'm very hyped if it covers what I think it's going to cover. It's going to be a very interesting thing. But there's also the fact that there's a lot of characters in the OP that we haven't seen yet, eh?
Yeah, 2 in particular.
I'm thinking what's going to happen is next episode's going to be what I think it is, and then after that we're going to get into the first actual arc. Where we're going to be introduced to some new characters, and we're going to actually have an arc coming up next.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction, based on my foresight knowledge of actually reading the source material, and knowing about it. So anyway, I guess that's me done. Unless you've got anything else to say, we can move on.
You stopped watching Slave Soldier, or not?
That comes out today. New episode of that hasn't come out yet.
Now, so maybe you...
Yeah, but I can't watch it while I'm on the stream.
What are you talking about? Why not?
We'll just bring it up. We'll get bloody Kanakawa striked again. We'll just watch it live.
Why not?
No, Ellie. I can hear you clicking. I can hear you getting ready. No, well, I think I talked about it a little bit last episode, where I was kind of like, yeah, it's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. I think this episode will probably be, because it's going to be the big fight between the time rewind girl and her sister. So it'll probably be the time
rewind girl with her sister was nice.
Yeah, they've got a pretty good dynamic. You'll probably get a kick out of it. It was pretty good.
Well, I'll just reread the manga. Crude and rude myself.
Yeah, because the manga's good. I like the manga, and it's interesting that the guy went from a Kamiga kill to doing this, where he went from extreme gore to Well, we might as well bring it up because we'll talk about it a little bit. Like he goes from extreme gore to extreme sex. Well, maybe not. It's kind of that's another interesting thing to loop back to Gushing Over Magical Girls, right? Gushing Over Magical Girls, the anime, makes the series more explicit than the manga, and then with Chained Soldier, it's like, I feel like to be honest, the manga's better in terms of the loots than the fucking anime. So it's kind of an interesting kind of duality there going on. But that's not to say it's bad, though. I feel like one of the downsides is the CG, to be honest. I think the CG is, I've mentioned it before, it's not great, but it's not bad. It's in that kind of weird middle ground where it's like just bad enough to be distracting, but it's not like Berserk 2016 levels of bad.
The technology is getting there slowly.
Yeah, it's been there. It's more. I think it's more about how it's used, right? And the way it's used, right? So yeah. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to say about Chained Soldier as it is.
I'll just quickly go through. It's time for torture, and just say,
yeah.
It'd be funny. It'd be good.
Yeah, I remember reading it and it was good. So.
Yeah. So, but in contrast to Slave Soldier, where the anime doesn't really add all this. I said the exact same thing last week.
Yeah.
Not 5 days ago. Extra reaction faces, extra animations, she's excitedly hopping around, being funny, doing extra little scenes that weren't in the manga, etc. Good stuff all around. It's funny. Go watch it. I might not bring it up in the future because it's just a
well, it's a short kind of. I think the episodes are short, aren't they? Or are they doing?
No. There's it's 2 chapters per.
Oh, it's like you get like 2 skits per because the manga is like a short, like
1 chapter, 1 torture, 1 skit.
Yeah. And like I've said before, it's a good series. So I'm glad it's got an anime. Like I'm not, I'm glad it's got it. So. Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know if you've got anything else to kind of.
No, I don't. So
because this is meant to be a chill stream anyway. So
Yeah,
we're chilling out, having a good time.
Preamble. It's quickly
yeah,
post
preamble.
amble.
You'll have to figure out a better way to do the titles. Might have to get some pre-made titles that.
Well,
you
I forgot I had this
out.
preamble already pre-made, and then I have a secondary title that I can make do be with. But then I forgot I did stuff.
CGI has always been about implementation. Zoids,
Spider-Man is still
Sentry
here.
is over two decades old and uses CG. Yeah, Spider-Man. Yeah. Yeah. Magician of D makes a good point. I think it is all about the implementation and how talented the crew is that's doing it. There's a lot of factors involved. I mean, Land of the Lustrous is the example everyone uses of a case of it being used like good, right? Because it's effectively a different medium, right? Like compared to 2D. And there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes into thinking about, moving characters in a 3D space versus a 2D plane, right?
Even though, of course, Land of the Lustrous still used plenty of 2D hand-drawn stuff when it was easier to do so. If you remember the first episode when Voss is just splintering into 1,000 pieces, that's 2D. Also, a lot of the eyes are 2D because it's more easily to do quick. Also, quick movements in general are done in 2D because just draw.
I think if you want like good, it's interesting because we started with gotcha games. We can end on gotcha games. The CGI trailers for Honkai and Arc Knights are always really, really good, and they're done in 3D. So that gives like 3D anime can be good. I think it's just harder. I feel, which is why you don't see it as because it's like more cost effective, right? To do shitty CG versus good CG, if that makes sense. But anyway, since I don't think we've got much else to say, we could probably cap the stream off.
This is like 2.5 instead of the almost
instead of 3. We usually do 3, so it's a chill stream though. We're relaxing.
2 hours shorter.
Yeah. We're relaxing this stream. We're being chill. We're gonna maybe come back next time at the time that we usually do.
As a reminder, I'm going to my fancy island.
Yeah, your fancy island. Yeah,
for the weekend. So no stream this weekend. The clips will keep coming up every Wednesday at 12 my time.
They'll keep coming out as they're coming out, and I'll keep pumping them out as I'm pumping them out because I've got a bunch that I've backlogged. So.
Yeah. And the next stream will likely be at a regular time this time, but on Saturday
on
Sunday,
depending on your time zone. Yeah. And we don't know what we'll cover. We've got some videos in the backlog, but as always, do recommend us shit, and we'll try and get to it.
I am kind of itching to make at least one of those any tuber videos on either Kill la Kill on clothing or other stuff.
Well,
even if it's just 5 minutes or so. I still, suffer from this terrible perfectionist. Oh no, my videos aren't good enough. Oh no, my voice sounds weird.
Oh no, my stream is scuffed all the time.
Oh no, but how can I ever produce such a video which is completely average?
How can I recover? How can I recover? But anyhow,
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we will catch you guys all next time.
Yeah. Quickly go to the ending screen. Bye.
Yes.